Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed. We hit 100. And thank you for everyone who subscribed to our first HOI Basics training video. If you guys haven't watched it, I'm actually gonna link it down below so you guys can catch up with us, okay? So last time in the first episode, we covered lines and contours. Did you guys have fun practicing the lines and doing line work with me? So for those of you who have subscribed, I did drop you guys an extra little bonus training to start working on those curved lines. So if you haven't subscribed, please do, because we will be sending all our practice and training worksheets straight to your inbox. All right, so I'm gonna go over our training schedule over the next 4 weeks. So every Monday, for those of you who have subscribed, and I'm saying this a third time, so you better subscribe. You'll be receiving your weekly newsletter from me detailing what our next lesson is going to be. You will receive our worksheets that you'll be needing to print out before your lesson. Every Tuesday, we'll be uploading our training video onto YouTube. And then on Thursday, I'm gonna follow up with an Instagram Live to answer any of the questions. And what I thought would be fun would be to actually pull some of you guys into the chat so we can do a face-to-face live and chat and answer any of the specific questions that you have. So I want you guys to actually write down the questions and get ready every single week. All right, so let's get into shading. So soft powder brows, I have grown to love this technique so much because really you have full control as an artist to build the softest or boldest powder brow. It's up to you, it's up to your client as well. But what you will notice if you do follow my work, and if you don't, you better go on Instagram and follow us at HOI Tattoo. You'll notice that out of our studio, and what I like to do is always gonna be borderless. We're always going to build that gradient from tail to the front of the brow, not only from that point, but also from the bottom up as well, okay? We're working with how naturally the light hits our face, and we're taking all of that into consideration, okay? So typically when we talk about powder brows, where does our mind go? We go back to 10, 20 years ago when powder brows were heavily outlined and also completely saturated, and there was no dimension at all. Even now, up to this point, when I mention shading to my clients, they get very nervous. So as an artist, it's not only our job to, of course, learn and train and develop an awesome technique, but it's also our responsibility to be able to explain to our clients what the difference is nowadays. What does soft powder mean? What do these techniques, and what is it going to heal like as well? So the more information that you know, the better, okay? This is just my way and how we like to approach eyebrows. I've had the pleasure of training with a lot of European artists. I love training with Alina Nakora, of course, she's my mentor, and also James Alea. And what I've noticed across globe, definitely if I were to break it down and categorize it, there's about 5 different movements when it comes to shading, okay? But what we're gonna focus on today is the most universal shading technique, which is, some people call it the A movement, some people call it hatching, doesn't matter. Really, it's a one direction movement where your accent is coming towards yourself, where the pigment is going to be implanted when the needle moves towards yourself. So that's the #1 movement that we're going to focus on. This movement is going to directly translate into brows, liner, and lips as well. So obviously, once we learn the movements, like I said in line work, once you learn these movements, you'll notice that every artist is pretty much doing just kind of their version of these movements. And once you learn it as well, make it your own. You have to make it work for you. But I'm excited to show you guys how I do soft powder brows. All right, so I'm gonna go over what your training schedule is gonna be like for the next 4 weeks. Every Monday, we're gonna be sending you guys our weekly newsletter that covers what we're gonna be going over through the lesson. You're also gonna be receiving your amazing training worksheets from me, so make sure you guys print that off, okay? And also have it downloaded on Procreate. For this specific lesson, especially for shading, I wanna emphasize that we need to be practicing with pencil versus on the iPad. iPad is great for, you know, playing around with the designs and showing what the shading is gonna look like, but it's not gonna translate. into your latex work or into your client work as well. So for this exercise specifically, I need you guys to be printing off these worksheets, have your pencil ready with me, and now we're gonna get started. Starting with our soft shading worksheet, again, I'm gonna go over all 4 sections for you. So this whole entire time, we're gonna be working at the 90-degree angle in a pendulum motion. This first section here, we're gonna be working towards ourselves. The second section, also in a pendulum movement, at the 90-degree angle, we're going to be working away from ourselves. And then we get into the curvy and the fun stuff. So again, still maintaining that 90-degree angle, and in the pendulum movement, we're going to be working down this little lazy river here, okay? Because naturally, with natural eyebrows, we're never going to be really working in straight lines. There's always going to be a soft curve and a natural curvature depending on their brow bone and their face structure. And same thing with the last section here. We're still going to work in that pendulum motion at the 90-degree angle, but we're going to be coming away from ourselves. So again, we're not going to be working on the iPad when it comes to the shading exercises. Now I'm going to show you what to look for and what it's going to look like on paper. So there's 2 ways you can hold your handpiece or your pencil. There's what we call traditionally a pinky hold. Most Europeans will use this type of hold with the pencil. And the key is to not grip the pencil too much. You want to just have it in between here. Your thumb is actually relaxed, okay? Your pinky is what's going to be supporting you on your surface here. And you're going to be toggling in between here. So you're looking for that pendulum movement side to side here. Another hold, which I find for North Americans, I've had to adapt this way just because we're so comfortable with holding it like a pencil. What you don't want to do is tilt it on the side. You still want to have it upright and you need it at the 90-degree angle, but what you can do is hold it a little bit more like a pencil and still be able to create the same motion, that same toggling position that you're going to want to feel, but a little bit more like a pencil hold. Depending on where I am on the face, I will alternate between pinky and also a pencil hold. But I would say majority of the time I do like to use my pinky to have a little bit more of that balance. So the key with shading is really maintaining a consistent pressure throughout the entire procedure. The great thing with pencil practice is that you can see exactly where you're different in different pressure, where you're too light, where you're too dark. Slowly move left, slowly move right until you've covered all the skin. And slowly inch towards yourself. That way you don't get that sectioning. So you always want to be constantly moving when it comes to any type of machine work. Especially when it comes to shading, you actually don't want to be working in sections. You also don't want to be moving your hand around too much. You want to work with the range of motion that you have. Once it reaches to the point where you can't anymore, that's when you want to pivot and readjust your anchor point. So just like you can see, it's a very even pass all the way throughout. What you want to look for at the edges is that it's kind of like a jagged, think about if you cut a thread and it unravels and everything is really piecey, okay? That way you'll never get sectioning. So make sure you're always moving slowly left, slowly right, and forward. That's how you get very even shading. And pay attention to your edges. You want to see a little bit of fraying, okay? So that should be your first pass. Your first pass, what you're looking for is very even color distribution throughout the entire surface without any heavy spots. what I want you to do to learn to build density, in the second session here, you can see that I started building the gradient from the bottom, a little bit of that darker, and you get a little bit lighter as you get up top. So you don't do this in one go. This is your second pass where you start to add that density and start to add pigment or color along the bottom or anywhere that you want to see more density. Now I'm going to show you what's too light, what's perfect, and what's too heavy when it comes to pencil. So if you take a look here, yes, we did mark it, but you see how light this is compared to this section here. So if your pencil shading is looking a little bit like this, it can mean that you might be a little bit light-handed. When it translates to skin, you might just be scratching the epidermis. So what you want to look for when it comes to pencil crayon or pencil practice is about this amount of density. Okay, this is also okay. We're still building that gradient from bottom and up as well. So I'm going to show you a little section here. Let's say I stopped. This is where you're going to want to pick off. Just like lining, you don't want to start at where you ended exactly. You always want to start 1 to 2 millimeters behind. I'm going to start about 2 millimeters behind, and I'm going to tag on the shading. And pay attention to the little frayed edges. Okay, so what you don't want to see, I'm going to show you now. So it's going to happen and it's okay, okay? So better make your mistakes on paper than it is on actual clients and actual skin. So if you actually start to color in sections like this, what you're going to start to see is actually little bits of sectioning. This is actually really, really hard to blend out. If you do get this kind of situation, all you can go is darker. So make sure that you practice that hand pressure and it's very even all the way through. What you're seeing here is uneven pressure all throughout. Okay, too heavy, too light. That's definitely going to translate on skin. So now down to the curvy lines. So this is actually going to be a lot more like what we're going to be doing on skin. We're going to be working with different directions, and you can see that I am building that gradient from the bottom up as well. Okay, so the key to practicing with the curved lines is that, let's say I'm here. Obviously, you're not going to be coming horizontally all the way and fill it in that way. You're going to angle and change your movement to the direction that you're going. And if you can see, as long I'm along the edges, I'm actually using a little bit of, I wouldn't say semicircle, but I'm hugging the curvature versus coming at it just straight. So you want to have a little bit more flexibility when you're working with curved surfaces. You're going to have a lot of clients that have a very prominent brow bone, and that's when you're going to notice that you're going to have to use this motion a little bit more. But I want to show you a nice even pass all the way through. You should not be able to see any inconsistencies. Let's say if there was a little spot missing, before you do your second pass, you always want to make sure that you go back in and add in any voids. Any lighter parts that you see, you're going to want to go back in and make sure you fill those gaps and fill those voids before you move on. All right, so what did you guys think of shading? For me personally, I've found it to be very therapeutic. I almost want to keep myself in a little bit of that meditative state when it comes to shading. So I'm going to leave you guys with 3 tips when it comes down to practicing shading. Number 1, definitely slow, slow, slow. I said this the last time, slow and steady wins the race, especially when we hop onto latex in the lessons a little bit further down. You're gonna see that's gonna translate hugely into your latex work. So slow and steady wins the race. Make sure, what we call when we say whip shading, we all have a natural tendency to go a little bit quicker, okay? So when you're practicing, make sure you go slow. Slow, so slow. Number 2, find a good rhythm. I like listening to music when I'm shading. Like I said, I like to find a good beat, something that's not too quick, obviously, because like I said, we want to go slow. So make sure you find a song and get yourself into a good rhythm, and you can almost use the beat as an accent so you know what your timing is like, okay? And number 3, and most important, relax, relax, relax. Relax your mind, relax your hand. I know right now everything is so tense, but we can't forget to relax, especially when it comes to shading, especially for those of you who are really good at hair strokes. It is a completely different hand movement doing steady hair strokes. Your hands have to be super, super loose when it comes to shading. The moment that you actually tense up your hand, you're gonna lose a lot of range of motion. It's gonna be very tense, and you're gonna actually see a little bit of the lininess in your shading as well. Those of you who already do shading, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So make sure that you're working in that pendulum movement and you're almost toggling between as well, okay? So those are my 3 quick tips. I really, really am excited to see you guys start to do a little bit more shading and maybe pay attention to the little things that you might not have before. And it is really, really important, like I said, to build our foundation from the base. This is to make sure that any other class that you do in the future, you already have the fundamentals, so you can actually learn the techniques from different artists and actually be able to apply it into your work. So make sure, I want to see your practice, okay? So tag us at HOI BASIX, or even just tag our handle Instagram. I'm so excited to be recording these videos. Please, please, please give us your feedback. Give us your honest feedback. All this, what we're doing it for, is so that we can tailor the program in the best way we can, specifically to your guys' needs, okay? And what better time than to experiment now? So make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to us if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, so what did you guys think? I don't even know what I think.